Now we're going to talk about erections and ejaculations. Okay, so when we look at these two different physiological phenomena, what does this have to do with anything? Well, when we look at the male reproductive system, one of the main functions of the male reproductive system is to create gametes. Gametes is sperm. Sperm needs to travel to the vagina, eventually reaching the fallopian tube for the fertilization of the egg in order to have babies. So in order for this sperm to be transported out, there are these different physiological phenomena that take place. Number one is an erection, and the other is ejaculation. So erection is whenever the erectile tissue in your penis becomes engorged with blood, and this leads to this phenomena of generating an erect penis. Next, you have this other physiological phenomenon where it's called ejaculation. This is where semen filled with sperm leaves the male reproductive system, the penis, and enters either the female reproductive system or some kind of tissue or bed, something, I don't know. Let's get started. So now we look at the erections. The first thing that's really important is to figure out which different system. So this is a nervous system response, specifically the autonomic nervous system. And which specifically? So the erection is due to the parasympathetic nervous system. So what is the parasympathetic nervous system? Parasympathetic nervous system, another way of remembering it, is the rest and digest response. So during this response, you have neurons, specifically from the lateral horn of the spinal cord, that transfer information from the preganglionic neurons to the postganglionic neurons, and eventually leads to the vasodilation of these specific blood vessels in the penis. So here, what's really important is what material is really important is NO, nitric oxide. It allows for the release of this chemical called nitric oxide, and nitric oxide is a very potent vasodilator. So when nitric oxide is released during a parasympathetic response, an erection is generated from all the smooth muscles that relax and allow for the blood flow to become into the penis. Now, when we compare the two, now let's look at ejaculation. What is ejaculation? This is a sympathetic nervous system response. So what was sympathetic nervous system? This says fight or flight response. And what's really important is comparing the two of which of these problems are arising. So it's a flight or fight response. So ejaculation, whenever the semen is released from the male reproductive system to the outside world. And this is a sympathetic response. So what's really important about any kinds of, later when we talk about abnormalities, any kind of homeostatic imbalances with the male reproductive system, it's very neurological. It's completely neurological. When we're talking about certain kinds of imbalances like erectile dysfunctions later on, what's really important about these mechanisms is that psychological factors can influence a person's ability to have an erect penis, so the ability to erect, and have an ejaculation. So these two processes are a very psychological problem. So if people wonder, why is it that I'm not being able to get ready for action? It's probably because there's something going on in your head that's not letting you do it. So instances of anxiety, depression, certain kinds of traumas, or certain other kinds of physiological abnormalities can lead to this problem. But majority of the cases when we talk about homeostatic imbalances has a lot of psychological implications that's being generated between the two.